Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Now, today we are going to continue on with our basic tutorial for Crusader Kings III, and this is episode number 6. In this episode, we're going to be talking about gold, prestige, piety, and renown, and how they relate to your dynasty, your family, your faith, your culture, but mainly talk about how these first three items, gold, piety, or gold, prestige, and piety, are currencies. And now often you think of gold, of course, as being a currency, as money. That's a natural way for us to think, is we spend gold and we can acquire things. In this game, you can acquire armies, or you can acquire uh, buildings, or you can upgrade things, or maybe pay people off to do certain things that you want them to do. And so it's very easy to conceptualize that as a currency. But in this game, there are two other currencies, and those are prestige and piety. Now, I have moved the game along a little bit here to show a very good example of what I'm talking about. And this dialog pop-up box just happened. I didn't do anything per se. Our steward and vassal Earl Ragnvald came to me with a proposal. And so time was just flowing along in the game, and Earl Ragnvald popped up and said, "Hello, no, that's not actually what he said. He said, "There are some projects I would like to undertake in the earldom of Ormond, my liege, with your blessing, of course." Now, you remember last time, so we had started playing the game last time and watching as things happened. And I talked about how this game reminds me a lot of a text-based game, those old text-based games that were really popular years ago, where you're presented with certain situations and you have to make a decision. Where do you want to go? It's like choose your own adventure, right? Now, this game has all sorts of nuances to it when it comes to that. We have our own personality traits, and if we act against them, we will get stress. Um, we have our own skills that maybe in the first place bring up these dialogue boxes because they definitely have an effect on that. Other characters have skills and they have their own personalities. And so all of the interplay of that will lead to a dialogue box like this coming up and decisions that we have to make. So you may be saying, well, okay, he wants to start some projects. Sounds good. What's the problem here? Well, let's go down here and look at our two choices. We can either say take the reins, Ragnald, or vassal shouldn't be taking such liberties. Now, this kind of goes into what kind of character we want to be, or at least in this situation, what's most advantageous for our character for the short term and the long term. And those answers may be different, okay? So let's look at the two choices. Take the reins Ragnald, and it says the earldom of Ormond, which is our county. It's our other county. Now, don't forget, the earl here is our vassal. This county is in our realm, but we do not directly control it. We allow our vassal, Earl Ragnald, to control that county. Okay? And so it says the earldom of Ormond, which is that county, gains encouraged improvements for 5 years. Now, we haven't talked a ton about building and development. We've looked at some of the buildings and how you do that, but we really haven't talked about development. Well, this is very much a positive, especially early in the game. Development growth in that county will be plus 10%. Well, of course, why wouldn't we want that, right? We want that county to develop as much as possible, as fast as possible. So great. So that would be encouraged improvements for 5 years. Definitely something we would like. Also, if we decide to say yes, take the reins, Ragnald, Earl Ragnald would gain a 20 opinion of us. All right. Why is that important? Well, if we click on the Earl here, he has a +6 opinion of us. Now remember, that goes from -100 to positive 100 and all the numbers in between. If it's red and negative, then he could have a slightly poor opinion of us, all the way down to negative 100, where he really just doesn't like us at all. And as this gets more and more red, it could cause more and more negative actions of his towards us. He could start a rebellion. He could get in the way of some of our plans. He could potentially withhold taxes or levies, or at least try to, from us. And so having a negative opinion of us could negatively affect our character if the Earl does. Meanwhile, if he has a positive opinion of us, it could cause him to send us more taxes and levies. It could cause him to do more good things for us and for our realm. And so you may say, well, obviously we would like him to like us. Not necessarily. You can also rule by fear. And so if he dreads us, if we have a high dread score and our vassal is scared of us, he will also do what we want him to do. So there's a fine balance there, right? It's it's the old question, would you rather be feared or loved? I would say generally in this game, it you would lean to maybe loved, but you can definitely play this game and be feared and get just as much as if you are loved. And so everything goes, and if we click on the, or I roll over this, I didn't click on it, you can see everything that makes up his opinion of us, okay? And so it's +6. We've already talked about the fact we're not really trying to rule by fear. And so, all other things being equal, we are going to try to get people to like us, okay? So, having him get a +20 on his opinion of us seems pretty good. Now, one thing I'll mention here, you see this -20 a year? This just means it degrades. Okay, and so immediately he'll get a +20 of us, but as each year passes, the Earl forgets that we showed him a kindness, and in about what, 15 years, 16 years from now, he's going to pretty much forget it altogether. And so this +20 will start to degrade. So when we go to look at how he thinks about us, and I'll do it up here this time, +6. If we select this, we'll see down at the bottom a +20 for an act of kindness, but that will go down over time. Okay, so anyway, those both seem very encouraging. It seems like, well, of course we would go ahead and select this. Well, then here comes the downside or what makes this an actual decision. And that is you spend 75 prestige to do this. And why is that? Well, think about it. Our Earl is going to go down to that county, which is technically our county. It's in our realm, and he is going to become more beloved by the population. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, this Earl is so great. Who cares about the petty king? We've got the great Earl of Ormond building up our county." It just causes you to lose a little prestige. Or you could look at it like, well, yeah, he's like, oh yeah, my petty king lets me do whatever the heck I want. Who cares? He's not that powerful. He's allowing me to build up the county, so whatever. I listen to him if I want to, or don't listen to him. This is just supposed to reflect that by you letting Earl Ragnald kind of do what he wants and come to you, you are going to lose prestige. And this is how it's used as a currency, right? Because there are two things here that we want, and we've got to spend a little bit. Now, we're not going to be spending money, we're going to be spending prestige. Okay, so that's one choice. What's the other choice? The other choice is we just flat out say no. Nope, we don't want you doing that. We don't care about your ideas or your projects. And he would lose a 10 opinion of us. Now, at this point, he is, as we said, looking at him again up here, he is +6. This would actually cause him to flip to -4. This would turn red because we have rebuffed him and said, no, we don't want you to do your projects down there. It may reflect poorly on us, or you know what, we're just being flippant today, or we woke up on the wrong side of the bed. We do not want you to do your projects. And he goes away muttering to himself, oh, that petty king, if he keeps testing me, I may start a rebellion, I may do other things. Okay? And these are the kind of decisions you'll have to make to carve out your character, your interactions with other characters, and who you want your characters to be. And this is really the role playing aspect of this game. Now, I'll point out here this fist means he is a powerful vassal. He's one of only two vassals that we have, and he is considered a powerful vassal. Um, and this really means he expects to be on our council, which he is, as you'll see, steward. And if we go over to council, here are your different council positions. He is our steward. Now, we will get into the council in its own episode. I don't want to dive too deeply into that, but that's why they're saying he's coming to us as our steward. Generally, all of your powerful vassals will also sit on your council and help you with certain tasks. He is helping us with our stewardship of our realm, and he's only average at it. He's not that great, but that's why he's coming to us. Well, now looking at these two choices, we've got quite a bit of prestige. We've got 659 prestige points. We are getting plus 1.73 a month. Okay, we'll get into that in a minute. Um, I think it's worth it. 75, that's not a big hit. We've got quite a bit, and we will be developing one of our counties, and it makes our vassal like us more. And that's how you spend prestige. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go up and look at each of these items individually. So let's look at gold, and you see here monthly income. Now, everything in this game is based on counties and it's based on months. So when you see kind of a breakdown of anything, it's a monthly breakdown generally. Okay, and so up here you see plus 2.3. That's just the total here that we're getting in monthly income. This is the grand total. We have 95 gold pieces that we could spend for various things, and we're getting plus 2.3 a month. Now, why is that? Well, you can see here, it breaks it down for you. From our domain, we're getting plus 1.6. And what is that coming from? Well, it's coming from the barony of Luminich. Now, you may remember when we talked about the map, and let's go down here to our petty kingdom. Um, and then we'll actually go to the earldom of Thomond. You may remember that when we talked about counties, and this is the county of Thomond, when we talked about counties, we said you as a ruler of the county can only control castles. You can't control the city. You can't control the bishopric. Okay, and then you have this unbuilt, barony here. The only thing that you can control is the castle in the county. Now that does give you control of the entire county, right? And you are the head of that county, the earl of that county. But the only thing that you control actually directly is the castle, and that is the castle of Luminich. Now, if you look here, I say the castle, it's the barony, so it's the castle and all of the land around it. People will be farming that, people will be living here, and that's why you're able to collect 1.6 a month in taxes. And if you needed to raise troops, you could raise 313 troops. And by, bringing this up at Luminich here, we'll let that hold. There we go. You can see what it is. It's a castle. It's the barony of Luminich. Holder is us. Tax 1.6. Levies 313. Wetlands, and this is how many troops it could supply. Uh, you know, that's kind of a generalization, but 3770, that supply limit just gives you that, how big of an army uh, can this sustain? It's a holding. So this is Luminich. Now let's go over here to the city. And the city of Ennis here, you will see, um, it has a tax base of 1.29. Okay, great. Loot, That's how much its loot value is and how many levies it can be called upon at any time. Now let's go up here. Now that we've figured out domain, so domain is everything we directly control. The only thing that is, well, first of all, let's go here. This is domain and holdings. Let's go here and look, and you can see right away what are your direct holdings. Our only direct holding is Luminich 1.6, 313. Empty holdings, this is that Nina. We could build a castle here and directly hold it if we want to. Or we could build a city, or we could build a temple there. We'll go into that at some other time. There are different considerations of why you may do that. Um, Now, what about the other items in our county? Or what else is giving us gold? Well, we have vassal taxes. And we see here plus 0.6. And we'll see we're getting 0.4 from Earl Ragnald, and we're getting 0.2 from Mayor Finsnecta. Okay, and so Mayor Finsnecta is in our own county that we directly control, but we can never directly control a city. Again, never a temple. And so he is collecting taxes here, and he sends us a portion of that. What is that portion? Let me do that again. That portion is plus 0.2. If we click on the city again of Ennis, altogether they're bringing in 1.29 in taxes. Well, they only send us a portion of that. And so Mayor Finsnecta, the council members, whoever out there, that's part of the mayor's group is keeping the rest of those taxes and sending on 0.2 to us. If we go to Marifin Snekta, you'll see he has his own income and his own gold. That's something we can maybe get away from him at some point, but that's for a different day. So we can go down here and look at our vassals. You can see here that it's Earl Ragnald, Mayor Finsnecta. If we look up here, vassal taxes, it is Earl Ragnald and Mayor Finsnecta, and it will show us taxes, and levies, taxes and levies that they would be sending to us each month. Now, why is that? Well, you can see it right here. Levies given to you by your vassal. Well, let's do taxes. We've been talking about money. Taxes paid to you by your vassal. Taxable income each month from the city of Ennis is 1.0. He is contributing 20% to us each month. Okay, that is a republic obligation. That is a set figure. There is not really anything you can do about that. A city is going to send you 20% until you do certain other things that are beyond the scope here. But just kind of think of this as, generally a city is going to send you 20%. The 1.0, you can see why that is. And so he sends you 0.2. But what about Earl Ragnald? Okay, well, Earl Ragnald and our earldom of Omond, so the county down here, the county itself is producing 3.5 in taxable income total. Okay, so the domain that the Earl holds is 3.2, and then he also has a city that is then contributing up to him, right? And so these vassalages can go down. Um, he has a city in the county there. They're giving him 0.3. He is raising 3.2 from controlling the castle. Altogether, it's 3.5, and his contribution to us is 10%. And so he is sending, rounding up here, right, 0.4 a month. He is sending that to us. Levies work the same way. In this case, in the levies case, he's sending us 25% of the total number of men that he could raise in an army. And the city over here is sending us 10%. All right. Now, as I said, with cities, they're republics, and it's very hard to change these percentages, if at all, because it's a city and you want the city to grow, you don't want to constrict them too much, etc., etc. Now, we can get into how that may change, but it's much easier to talk about it when it comes to your direct vassals, like an earl. That comes down to this. So let's click on our vassal and right click and look over here to modify feudal contract. So this is kind of the main personal item interaction with your Earl. You can do all the other things you can do with other characters, but you'll only see this modify feudal contract when you bring up one of your vassals. And when you click on it, you'll see we can actually change his tax rate and his levy rate. Okay? We could change this to high, but it has certain really bad effects. Or we could change the levies to high or to massive. Well, we can't even get to massive yet. Um, we could do those things and change his feudal contract. You see here, modify feudal contract. But there are bad consequences to that. He may rise in rebellion. He may start to go against us. All the same reasons we talked about whether he likes us or doesn't like us apply. Okay, and so this feudal contract you have with all of your vassals, and it's often based on how much crown authority you have. And we are going to talk about that next time when we talk about our realm. For this time, let's stick to gold and just say that we have normal taxes. And so he's sending us zero point 0.4, the city's sending us zero point 0.2. That all makes sense. You see the breakdown here. And we're getting, approximately 2.3 a month. Okay? And that's how gold works. You're raising taxes, getting taxes from both your own domains and your vassals' domains. Um, you can also take over other territory and loot their gold. Remember that loot score that we saw? You can also do that. Now let's talk about prestige. Okay? That is the next currency. Right now, remember, we just spent 75 in prestige, so we're down to 584. That is increasing at 1.73 a month, and you can see all of the reasons why. We're the house head, the dynasty head. We hold a county, we hold a duchy. Certain items doing with foreign affairs give us a little kick there. We are impatient. It's one of our personality traits. That also adds to our prestige. I guess it makes us seem more kingly to be impatient. I don't know. I don't know the thought process behind that. But yes, impatient adds to a monthly prestige of 20%. Okay. And then our diplomacy is bad, and so we get a -2. And so every month, for now anyway, until we do something different or something changes, we are getting plus 1.73 a month in prestige. Now, these have levels to them. So money does not, okay? But prestige does have levels that give you certain bumps and bonuses as you build up prestige. And this was something else to think about when we just spent that 75 prestige is we are trying to get to another level of this, right? And so this rounds up. It's 59 of 1,000 because it's 584. And so really we're trying to head towards 10,000 here. Um, but we are established. Established is the second level of fame. The next level is distinguished. This has no effects really. Okay, we're just established. It is what it is. But if we become distinguished all of a sudden, secular opinion of us would be +5, and the number of knights that we can raise or have be in our armies would go up by 1. Okay? And so you start to get certain buffs and bonuses as your prestige goes up. Because you may have said, well, why not spend that 75 prestige? Well, there's kind of two things that go into prestige and piety that, one of them is the same as gold. You spend it and it can go down to 0 and then you don't have any left. But the other consideration with these are that these certain levels will give you certain advantages or bonuses. So it's just another consideration. Okay. Same with piety. Piety, we've got 349. We are currently dutiful. We're progressing towards faithful. Okay, great. Um, this is at, as I said, 299 a month. The total gained uh, is that it's we get one every month from being temperate. Our religious relations give us plus 1.25, and you can read what that means. Do we have a counselor task performed by the court chaplain and increases the faith ruler's opinion of the character, increases monthly piety gain. There you go. It's a counselor task. We'll talk about the counselor again, as I said, some other time, maybe next time. And then learning. This learning skill gives us zero point 0.6, and we have visited a holy site. And so our piety is going up every month, 2.99. So right now we're dutiful, which really doesn't give us a whole lot, but we're progressing towards faithful. If we get to faithful, we will see that the clergy opinion of us, so all clergy in our lands, will go up plus 5. And that is a good thing, right? Because one of the things we've talked about is that we need the clergy to like us to receive taxes and levies from our bishopric lands. Our bishopric baronies, where the temples are located, will not send us taxes, will not send us levies unless our bishops like us. As a matter of fact, we are currently running a scheme. Now, it's a positive scheme to sway the Bishop Cossington to like us. The reason being is the minute he does that, they will start sending us taxes from these lands around the temple. Okay, and so piety, we will have other decisions like we just did the prestige decision. We will have decisions when it comes to piety that we can spend some of that piety to, do certain things. Maybe we want someone that's very religious to be one of our knights, let's say. I'm just making that up, but let's just say that's something that we want to happen. Well, it's very possible that one of the options that we have will say, okay, you spend 100 piety to bring this person to your court. Great. Now he's at our court. He could be one of our knights, and we've spent some piety. Also, as you saw, building up piety can get us to the next level of piety and give us certain bonuses and advantages, buffs, whatever you want to call them. Okay. Now, while we're talking about piety, I did want to come down here and talk about our religion again. Again, we are not Catholic, so this is a little different than any other starting spots in Europe for the most part. I mean, you're seeing Slovenskon here, Vitalist out here, but for the most part, all of Europe is Catholic until you get over here to Ireland, and we are insular. So if you want to know anything about your faith, I'll click out of this again and go back down here. You just go to the cross here. I don't know if you can also get to it from the cross up here. So at piety, just like what do we get if we go to prestige? I'm just kind of curious now. Oh, nothing. Okay, so the cross gets you to your faith. It'll tell you it's an organized Christian faith. It will tell you the further, the fervor level of your faith amongst your peoples. This can have some effects. If your people get particularly fervent, they may do certain things. They may even rise up against you if, for let's just give an example, you have a different faith. Or if someone came and took over some of our lands and was Catholic, our people may rise against them if their fervor level gets high enough. And you can see here, um, it has certain things that go into it, but the fervor will really go into how your people react to certain things. So, for instance, we were getting a penalty for having too few spouses because we are a polygamous faith. Well, some of that's going to be based on fervor. If our fervor is zero, and just think of it this way, if people, proclaim to be insular Christians, but they're not very fervent about it, then they're not going to really care what we do too much with regards to the faith. But if they're, 70%, that's not too bad, right? That's, a long ways on the way to 100%. They are going to care. And that's how this I keep saying further, that's how this fervor comes into it. Now, every religion, if you click on it, will tell you its main tenets. Monasticism, okay, and so this is, monks, vows of poverty, and pastoral isolation. And you can read, into that. There is a lot that goes into this. If a faith is pastoral isolationist, it's very hard, it's a little harder to convert them, plus 30%. Characters and counties may reconvert back to this faith if they're kind of forgotten about. It says led astray, but if they're forgotten about, uh, characters, but not counties, are more willing to be converted away from the faith. Now, that's probably different from Catholicism. We could go look, if we wanted to look at Catholicism, it will tell us here. Uh, their main tenets are monasticism, communion, armed pilgrimages, okay? And there will be all sorts of things that go into that. So you should always go and read about your faith because it's very important to know what your people expect. You are their leader, their ruler, and so they're going to expect certain things out of you based on your faith. Now, if you just play countries down here in Europe, Catholicism, or if you just play countries over in the Middle East and it's Islam, you will kind of get to know these. Insular Christianity is just a little bit different. It's just not that widespread, and I didn't know much about it when I started, looking at this. But you can come here and find out everything that you want to find out about it. Now, one of the things about religion is that certain traits of yours will be either virtues or sins, and we can see those right here. So in insular Christianity, sins are lustful, gluttonous, greedy, sadistic, and vengeful. The people of this faith consider those sins. All right? And these are virtues. And we have one of these. We are temperate, but also generous, compassionate, forgiving, and chaste. This sounds like a Christian religion, right? But it is this pastoral isolation that kind of makes it a little bit different. Um, and so these, you will get certain bonuses if your character has these traits, or potentially certain penalties if they have the sins. These are the main doctrines. It's male dominated, and you can see what all of that means. Women do not get implicit claims on their parents' titles, for instance. It enables certain laws. Um, Claims of women can only be pressed against other women. You know, all insularists here you will see have an opinion of female rulers of -10. It is a male dominated religion. It is pluralist. Okay. It is theocratic. So temple, and this goes to what we talk about with the bishoprics. Temple holdings are leased out to their holder's realm priest, who then serves them as a theocratic vassal. All right, so that explains that. Uh, Ecumenism. Other Christian faiths that have ecumenism doctrine are considered astray instead of hostile. So this is like a branch, right, where we say, uh, we don't really dislike you. We just think that you've been astray, led astray. You just do not understand the true nature of Jesus and God, right? And so that's just another factor. Divorce must be approved. Um, you see here about marriages, bastardry, and you see here polygamous, crime doctrines. I mean, it has all of the different effects and how your people look at different actions that you would take in the game. It's all about your faith, special doctrines, teachings of Jesus. And you can again read all of this. It's very fascinating. I will tell you one of the more interesting things in this game is to create your own religion, which you can do as you become more powerful. You could create your own religion and have people follow what you want to do, a la Henry VIII. And so, go and read all of this. We could spend 3 episodes just going through all of this, so I'll let you read it. Just be aware that when you're thinking about piety or faith, that there is a quite a great deal that goes into it. It's very interesting, or at least I find it very interesting. And that's faith and piety. Renown, we've kind of already covered this, right? This is your dynasty score. You're getting 0.82 each month, and that is because we have 16 living members and one duke, which is us. We are the head of our dynasty and also the head of our house, which is the only house branch off this dynasty. You can start to open legacies as you build renown up. Right now, we're insignificant. If we become noteworthy, we get certain buffs and benefits, just like everything else in this game. As you build up things, you generally get bonuses or avoid penalties. Okay, and again, if you want to see more about your house or dynasty, you can go down here. Here's the dynasty crest. Okay, here's your house crest. And so every dynasty has at least one house. It could have multiple houses. Hopefully, someday we'll make our dynasty have multiple houses. Um, but we'll see. We are House Brienne. We are Dynasty Dal Gka. I totally made up how to say that. And that is really renowned. We've gone into that a few times. So next time when we come back, we are going to start going down these right-hand items. We are going to look at our realm. We sort of did that this time, right? We looked at our domain and we looked at our vassals, but we're really going to talk about this crown authority and what that means and the other information here. We'll look at succession, which is probably the uh, most important topic in the game. So we will be looking at that. We're going to skip military again. These two items relate to military and do that in its own episode. And next time we'll probably are also start to get into the council. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're learning a lot about the game. Of course, there's a lot that goes into it, but ultimately, if you get this thing started up and you start getting messages here in the middle of the screen, you're you're going to have to start making decisions, and hopefully I am giving you the basis for making those decisions and what's important and how you spend certain of these items and just kind of the effects of those decisions, what they would have. Um, but anyway, as always, thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe there at the bottom. I would appreciate it. And until next time, from Strategy Gaming Dojo, I'll talk to you.